Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're going to finally hit something I wanted to kind of get into. I didn't spend a ton of time, but I know I did talk to one of the listeners, as well as a coworker, kind of about the damage and all that, wanting to change this. And I mentioned this in the last video, so I really want to kind of hit this today. Now, um, I kind of mentioned I really want to rebalance the weapon damage. There's pros and cons to this going either way. Now, really, when I'm talking about that and to look at this, when I see the small amount of damage that our phaser arrays are doing, now this is a Type 10 phaser array, which is one of the latter arrays that we get. Um, there are kind of downfalls to this, okay? And that's where I really want to bring this all around. Now, there's a couple ways we could do this, and bear with me because I don't know where you want to sit when you're doing this in a role playing game. So, if you want to just leave it in Star Trek, that's perfectly fine because everything is fairly well balanced from what we see at D6 Holocron. Bringing it into Star Wars, damages are a little lower. But now here's the offside, and I've mentioned this all along. Now we have a Type 10 phaser array. We do have a rate of fire of 5, and the damage is only 4D. But the way the arrays really work in comparison to having our just cannons, okay, kind of like what we see in the earlier series as well as in like our Star Wars. Every cannon's firing whatever. Okay, um, along this whole line here, essentially we have separate cannons that are all linked to just kind of go into one. Now, you don't need as many cannons there to cover that whole wide arc as what we needed before. So maybe it's only 3 cannons, or maybe it is 5 cannons or something. So that's our rate of fire, and they're only at a 4D. Okay, so we could, you could always upgrade that on your ship or whatever. So it does work out. It's not overpowered. It's not really underpowered. We have 5 cannons there at 4D. Now, would I like that to be a little higher at a Type 10 phaser array? I think so, but I think we want to really leave that alone. I think the biggest part that I want to really start getting to is our torpedoes here. Okay, and in the books that I've got, whether it's Decipher, which I really liked how the system worked for doing that, although they acknowledge when they made this that you could very easily overpower a ship by futzing around with the numbers a little bit. And sometimes if you took more smaller weapons, you could get a higher number, which is where they rated all your damage and everything off of. So going from there, they knew they had a system that could very easily be broken. Okay, um, so what I'm trying to work with is this. I want to get to the torpedo launchers. I want to leave these alone, at least for now. I think this is going to be fine, even when I port this over to my Star Wars venue. Okay, and I've got a nice little storyline I running around this little pea-sized brain of mine. So if we can get this up and running, it'll work out pretty good. So we do have just taking the Akira here. Okay, so we have Type 10 phaser array has a 405 degree dorsal arc. So anything on the dorsal side, we can shoot 5 times at 4D. Now, one of the things that changes here is we have a fire control of 2D plus 1, but is meant to be able to attack all 5 at one time. In Star Wars, every time I take a second shot, I lose 1 die to try and hit. So potentially, if I want to hit something and I want to do a whole second round, now I could lose 1 die for firing a second salvo of our dorsal um, phaser array here, and I could have 5 more shots with only a plus 1D plus 1. plus whatever my own gunnery is going to be. So that's not that bad, and it will very quickly even things out. I think in those regards, I think we're fine. Okay, what I really want to come down to is really our photon torpedo launchers. Okay, so this is where I'm having my little crisis. So looking at the photon torpedoes now, I just quick jotted here some numbers, and I'm throwing this out here, and I want you to just work with me on this. Okay, really, I think we have upgraded launchers, which the launcher system itself may have certain, I don't know if you want to call it like fire controls or whatever else, or maybe it's how fast we can actually shoot the torpedoes out, how good of a spread, which I do think has been kind of going along. So here we have, um, I think it just said 15 photon torpedo launchers, uh, but it has 900 Type 2 photon torpedoes. Now, the Type 2, I think, is also something we were using. Oh, that's Constellation. I wanted Constitution. All right. Now, get down to our photon torpedoes. And I'm passing them up because I'm not paying attention here. Okay, tractor beams. We have Type 1 photon torpedoes. They're doing 3D. Okay. I'm breaking this down a little bit and saying, okay, now this is our original series, which is a little less than what I really wanted. Um, for the original series, I was thinking that if our photons were doing 5D damage, okay, uh, it's the photon torpedo itself. Now that's our early one. Now we have our essentially our movie era. No, actually, this isn't technically the movie. This is uh, in the show. You see two different models. Okay, so if I can come up, you see the one where it's kind of got the rocket cone and and the little like the 1950s little antenna in the front. That's one. Now this one shows the movie era, but this is the upgraded version of that one. So when we get to our torpedoes and tractor beams, torpedoes here, that's 3D. That's doing the same damage as what we were doing before. All right. Now I was thinking if we move that up to a 5D. All right. As I'm moving things around here with my little bar here that you guys don't get to see, but I do. All right. Now this is our movie era, and let's see. We have now we're using Type 2 photon torpedoes. So anytime I see a photon torpedo, if it's a Type 2, it should be 4D if I'm looking at it correctly. And here's our Akira and photon. Okay, Type 2, 4D. But now we have quantum, which is at 8D. The way I'm looking at this is if we take our Enterprise, and if we were to change that, and really I've divided this up as far as different. Once I can find the Enterprise, because it's down here somewhere. Shoot, I don't see it. I think I passed it up somewhere. Um, so for the Enterprise series, I was thinking their torpedoes would be doing roughly about 3D damage. Now I want to see exactly what we have here, and I am missing this entirely. So, and I know I did the Enterprise. So exactly where I've hidden that, I don't know. Um, so I'm hoping that I'm doing 3D damage with the original Enterprise. Well, not the original, because to me the original for the NX-01 Enterprise. And maybe that there it is, NX01. All right, I'm looking for Enterprise, and I have it listed as NX01. Now this is doing 2D plus two, so that's not far off from where I was thinking. For the torpedoes, I was thinking 3D for damage. All right. Now, when I'm looking at my torpedoes here, we have nuclear fusion torpedoes, which is what they were using here. And then they have a listings of five different torpedoes that they could have used with different damage ratings. Now, out of the Decipher book, this gets a little convoluted here if you don't really understand the system. If you only have one launcher, it's just that one number, and then there's another page you go to, and that says it should be doing this much damage, okay, for penetration and so on and so forth and whatever. Because we're using D6, it's a simpler method. It's just that hits our shields, which then goes through our hull and then goes in internal to whatever. Okay, um, I'm just trying to knock this out and say, okay, so for the Enterprise era, if I'm doing 3D damage with those torpedoes, the original series era, so Type 2 should probably be a 5D damage. And then when I get into the movie, so kind of moving back here, so Galaxy. Let's see what our Galaxy has for torpedoes, torpedo launchers. All right, and for the most part, they're using Type 2 photon torpedoes, and it's at 4D. Now, that's the same thing that we've been using all along. I was thinking of moving that up a little bit. And here's where, we have different torpedoes going out. And then we have quantum at 8D. So I guess I'm looking at it as if everyone's using Type 2 is our standard. Okay. So um, let's go Enterprise, which is nuke. We have our Type 2. And then we have our quantum, which we have at 8D. Now, you know, I'd like to see it a little bit different, but I guess that's probably where we're going to have to leave it. And I'd like to move the torpedoes instead of a 4D up to a 5D. Then, if we're just going to stay or like our nuclear, and we'll just leave that. I guess we'll leave that. I don't know. I really want to update. I want to get those updated a little higher than what they are. But I need to justify it. I can't just I can do whatever I want. It's my game, but I do like to keep things kind of on order. If we're saying everything's like a Type 2 photon torpedo, I'd like to see that closer to like the concussion missile launchers out of um, Star Wars. So now that's going to be what 7D damage, okay. But when we start raising up the damage there, then that means that our hulls need to correspond. Um, I guess you know, looking at this is a fairly good size ship. I mean, we have a size 7 capital class ship, 464 meters long. It's not a small ship, and that's pretty much on par with what the Galaxy class is. So where I was trying to go with this would be this. Anything from the Enterprise era would probably be a 3D damage for our torpedoes. The original series would probably be a 5D damage. Our movie series would have been bumped up to a 7D. Because remember, we've gone on a number of years. And now we have the next generation. which is now 80 years later or so many years later. So now we're looking at 9D damage, and our quantum would probably be a 11D damage. But now, if I do that, that means that my hulls are a little off in comparison, but not necessarily because I'm sure I don't know if I can bring this up and you guys would be able to see it or not, but I will endeavor to give her a shot. Um, let's see here. I'm having trying to see if I can't find my folders here. Just trying to get to our starships. So for nothing else, I can at least take a quick gander and see where do we have our star destroyers. Um, all right, so here's our quasar bulk. I don't know if you guys are able to see this or not. I'm just kind of flying through. So here's a ship that's 340 meters and it has a hull of 2D plus 2, shields of 60. So, it's not that far off. We're not really doing all that bad. And, this is a lot of just me thinking out loud, throwing this out here, because like I've said all along, my videos are really us just sitting around a pool table and just having these discussions. The only thing I miss is being able to bounce this off of you and actively have conversations back and forth. But now we have the Hapan Battle Dragon, which has a 70 plus 2 and a shields of 3D. So, you know, um, the to look at our Akira class here and say that we have a hull of 5D, shields of 3D, it's not that far off. And they have torpedoes that are doing 9D damage. Um, it's a scary uh, ion cannons. Let's see. Tractor beams, light cruiser with a hull of 3D plus 2, heavy cannons, ion cannons, turbo lasers, um, Trade Federation battleship, which I believe does have. I'm trying to quickly look and see. Yeah, 5D damage. Concussion missile batteries. Okay, so because these are batteries, we have them doing 9D, and this is a ship that has a hull of 40 plus 2. Just kind of going back and forth. So even if I do up these a little bit and just go by era and change it. Now, this is all done, and I've presented this all to you with the idea that, yeah, I understand most people are probably going to look at this and just want to do this as nothing but a um, Star Trek. But if you're a silly person like me and you want to mash everything together, which I've got a little bit of a storyline that I think would work very well for this, as well as bringing a couple other things in. Um, and we could probably do this, and it would probably work all the way around. But it's just one of those things looking at the torpedoes because that seems very low to me in a lot of regards because of doing the Star Wars side of this for so many years. Our concussion missile launchers were always like 70. They're seeing batteries for the one, so it's not like you're just shooting the one, it's shooting multiples at the same target. Where Star Trek's different because we have that spread. So we can do a spread of, we can attack as a spread to a ship, and it's not like you're trying to hit that same exact target. You're hitting here and here and here and here. Okay, so you're going to have to roll for every individual one, but you can shoot 6 of them at one time. It is meant for that, and I think that would be the biggest upgrade when we look at this. So, um, I guess what I'm looking at is the nuke might maybe if we make the nuke a 5D The Type 2 is a 7D, and the Quantum being our 9D. That would work out fairly well. Uh, Remember, we only have a limited supply of torpedoes. Now, when you're looking at big ships like this, and you have 900 Type 2 photon torpedoes, this is a missile or torpedo platform. Okay. Um, and it has 15 torpedo launchers. I mean, this is what it's meant for. And when we look at ships in today's modern Navy, um, one torpedo can very easily take out battleships. I mean, we've done it before. Aircraft carriers. I mean, it's scary the thought of what torpedoes can do to them because my understanding, you're it's not necessarily always hitting the hull, but if you can actually have it detonate next to the hull, it now envelops the concussion and everything just starts buckling that hull back and forth in ways that it's not really meant to, and that really starts tearing the hull away. Um, so, in that regard, torpedoes are very scary in today's modern military, let alone um, something out in space. So, for having them being very powerful would make a lot of sense. Now, this is a Type 1 photon torpedo, so that might make it kind of close to what we were using with the nukes. Um, but being a original series, like I said, I was thinking Enterprise would be like a 3D. The original series would be a 5D. The movie would be a 7D. We kind of bump that up a little bit. The Next Generation being a 9. And uh, if we throw the quantum torpedoes that we get from Deep Space Nine, which I tie in with the Next Generation being a 11D, I think that kind of works out. It's upgrades that we've done throughout the years. Um, and it's just that big, scary, big old missile that we have just shooting out there. Um, I think it's got merit here. But let me know what you think. I mean, it's like I said, it's an open discussion. And then the silliness is I can hear my best friend because I'm the one that's always doing this stuff, and he always looks at me and says, "Hey, it's your world. Do what you want." He's just happy to get together and we sit around the table. It doesn't matter how well balanced things are at times. It's just the fact that we get together, and that is ultimately why we do these games. It's we'll knock out 4 hours of time to be together. And being honest, I think we play for about an hour. We have 3 hours of BSing and just catching up, and it's just the fun of getting together, being around a table, and just finding out how everyone's doing. The gaming aspect is kind of nice. We get to roll the dice and that. And there's times where we have all intentions of actually role playing, but we just get into topics that's going on, and the books just stay closed. Um, so that's just kind of a rant today. Kind of, like I said, it's my thoughts here. Um, Tell me what you think in the comments. I mean, like I said, it's an open discussion. It always is an open discussion. Um, I'll keep going. I think what I'll probably do is I think I'll probably just keep things similar to what we have here. But I think if I port this over for doing that, or like I've done before with our backups and all that, I might actually um, here uh, tractor beams. Just do a little side note in our parentheses and say um, TOS. Oops, put in a bracket here. Here SW um, TOS DMG 5D. There. All right. So That would be our Star Wars, the original series. Damage is going to be 5D. So it's just a little modification. So this is for me, and I'm just going to kind of do it that way. I think that would make some sense because I'm just going to break them down to different eras, and we'll just kind of go that way. So with that, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for visiting. Thanks for listening to me rant and rave on this. I know it's a subject I kind of talked about, and we're hitting it. Um, whether it makes sense to you or not, but leave me a comment. With that, we'll see you in the next video.